Halloween night is so damp and so chill. A night of black evil, a night of cold ill. It's dark in the evening and then darker still on Halloween night. Halloween night is the one night to dread, the night for all spirits to feed and be fed, to dance and to prance on the night of the dead. On Halloween night. Halloween night is a pumpkin that grins to protect you from goblins who'll stick you with pins. But when you are dead, it's the goblin who wins on Halloween night. Halloween night is a bonfire that's bright. Its flame is a friendly and flickering light until evil spirits float into your sight on Halloween night. Halloween night is the night to beware, for ghosts are dishonest and goblins unfair. So face them and fight them, my friend, if you dare. On Halloween night. Good evening out there in podcast land, ladies and gentlemen. I am your humble host, Dr. Dennis Carroll, also known as the Midnight Hunter, and this is a special edition of Hunting the Shadows. This is our Halloween edition. Yes, it's Halloween. It's here. The night of Samhain, the season of the witch, is fast upon us. It's a dark, gloomy night out there. A night when the veil grows ever thinner. Spirits of the dead are walking the land tonight. Definitely. There's some of them around here, too. Welcome aboard. We have a fantastic show set up for you tonight. And come on in and gather in the grotto here at the Casa de Lobo. That's the House of the Wolf. That's where I live, by the way. And I appreciate you all for being here tonight. It's going to be great, I hope, and we're going to enjoy ourselves a little bit here before the witching hour gets here, definitely. But yeah, we've got some interesting stuff we're going to talk about tonight. And I'm going to tell you the story. That's what I've just been waiting on, of when I was attacked by a vampire. This is a true story. You know, I don't deal in made up stories like that. That's the real thing. This is the real deal, and I'm going to be telling you about that tonight. We're saving that towards the end. We also got another contest coming up tonight. We got another packet of stickers we're going to be giving away. And so we got a lot of ground to cover tonight. Absolutely. Yes, I'm definitely in the Halloween mood tonight. And, you know, this is one of the most darkest and the most dangerous nights of the year. Not just for black cats, but for children and adults as well, for people of all ages. There will be a lot of people who will unfortunately disappear forever tonight, never to be seen again. They will never see the sun come up on this day, not once again. So it is a very sad and sort of very dark, absolutely dark night. One of the darkest nights of the year. Although there are other nights that are held venerable by certain people out there, this is one of the biggest ones. This is the biggie. Absolutely. But I want to welcome everyone coming in here tonight in the chat room. Hello, Urso, and hello, Una, and Blue Eyed Bandit, and Joanne, and Anna. And she's lurking. That's okay. If you want to lurk, do that. That's perfectly fine. Absolutely. That's a form of support. Definitely. It means you had, the will to lurk. So that's good too. Absolutely. But I want to welcome everybody gathering in here tonight. Damien, my brother Red Pill Preacher is here. We like the Gary Wayne interview last night. Yes, it was excellent. Excellent. Mr. Wayne definitely knows his stuff. Hello, Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot. Good to have you here. All right, we've got some new faces in the chat tonight. That's good. That's always a good night when that happens. We want to welcome all the new people in. who knows? You might get lucky and get a free membership tonight. You never know. Some people have been giving those away. You might get the chance for free to see what it's like to live like one of the Shadow Wolves. Absolutely. We have a lot of fun as the Shadow Wolves. I will be dropping another video very soon on that Shadow Wolves, so keep an eye out for it, okay? Hello, Ivy. Rhonda. Hello, Rhonda. And many years ago, I had a girlfriend named Rhonda. She was nice. I remember her well. I think she was like fifth grade or something like that, somewhere back in there. But anyway, she was a cute little blonde. But that was a long time ago, and a lot more water under the old bridge, my friends. Definitely. You're looking too, Rhonda. That's okay. Lurkers are welcome. I like lurking. I lurk myself a little bit once in a while. You never know. So there you go. But anyway, yeah. This night of all nights of the year, as Edgar Allan Poe called it. Absolutely, yeah. Halloween night, also known as Samhain by the Celtics. Samhain. That's where you get Samhain, Halloween. That's a little similarity there, definitely. A lot of people get that mixed up. They think it's pronounced Samhain, but it's not. It's Samhain. That's how it's actually pronounced. It looks like it's written as Sam Hain, but it's not. I wonder who it's Sam Hain. I'm gonna have to put him as a character in a story sometime. Sam Hain. Just to make a little fun of that one, but anyway. Um, yeah, I was just thinking back tonight on all the Halloweens I had as a kid, the fun we used to have. Um, I don't really celebrate Halloween like, some people do. I don't do a whole lot of decorations and stuff like that because I said it is a very paganistic, very dark night. And it's got a lot of darkness and evil attached to it. But it depends on what your intentions too are. If you're just intending to have fun with kids and hand out candy or something, there's nothing wrong with that. But your intentions need to be definitely in the right place. Night of the Living Dead, huh? I hope everybody enjoyed the poem there at the beginning of the show. That's one of my favorite Halloween poems. I didn't write it, unfortunately. I wish I had, but it's a good one. Anyway, but I want to remind everybody I will be telling the true story of when I was attacked by a vampire in a little while here. Before the end of the show, I will be getting into that. You want to hear this story. It's a wild story, and I'm going to tell you something about that. I'm sharing it with you all tonight for the first time, okay? I haven't told anybody this story in a group of people. So I will be definitely sharing it with you and with that. And Joanne, you loved my rendition of Poe's The Telltale Heart and the Cask of Amontillado. I'm drinking some Amontillado tonight. It looks like Amontillado, but it's not actually. It's Halloween punch. Okay. But yeah, that was great. If you missed it, folks, it's on the channel. Go and listen, watch it if you want to. I think you'll like it. Hopefully you will. But I do my rendition of The Raven. I do The Telltale Heart and The Cask of Amontillado. And you can find them for your listening pleasure tonight on Hunting the Shadows YouTube channel. So go on over there and check it out. And if you're there and you never have subscribed, now is a good time to do it. We're pushing subscriptions. We're getting close to that magic mark of 2,000 subscribers, folks. Let's keep it going, all right? Absolutely. Lenore was a good one. Oh, yeah, Lenore, she was a good old gal. Yeah, she's still hanging around somewhere. You never know. But I always like the end. My favorite part of The Raven is the end, and the raven never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon that is dreaming. And the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted Nevermore. That's great. That's some great stuff right there, folks. Absolutely. Nobody could do it like the master Edgar Allan Poe. He could touch that darkness and get that darkness to touch you back, too. He was very good at that. He was the master of the macabre. Yeah. I like to pronounce that macabre as the French do, and not macabre as the English do. Okay? That's macabre. That sounds better to me. It depends on where you're living, I guess. I think a lot of Americans have embraced the English version of it. We could call the uncanny and the strange. Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot. I like that name. You're covering both states on that one, huh? That's good. Uh, I had my own run in with Bigfoot many years ago. I know he's real. I don't have to wonder about that. I met that son of a gun face to face, so that settled that thing for me a long time ago. He is real, folks, just as real as I am. There are other things out there just as real as I am. That's what I'm going to be talking about tonight. When you actually meet a vampire face to face and he attacks you, that's another story as well. So you're going to hang on for that one. It's wild. You're gonna like this one definitely. I started to just share this with only the members, but I said this is really too good to just keep it in there. So I'm gonna do this publicly for the first time. I had an Edgar Allan Poe muse with 800 pages and had a Baltimore Sun foldout from 1918 in the newspaper. I bought it for $500. Well, that's impressive. I'd like to see some pictures of that or so, definitely. I have dust from Edgar Allan Poe's home, some brick dust from his home, actually, as a souvenir. Lots of cryptids and certainly vamps here in England, especially at Highgate. Oh, yeah, I've always wanted to hang out at Highgate for a while. Maybe one weekend, just hang out there and see what happens. And I've also wanted to take the tour of Jack the Ripper's murder scenes. I've always wanted to take that. I think one of them's in a one of them is in a parking deck or something like that. One of the sides. So, hello, Sweet Pea. Welcome aboard. Come on in. We're just getting started here. We're warming up. We're getting everything ready here for our little Halloween night tonight. And I've been out trick or treating, eh? Trick or treat, trick or treat. I don't hold a lot of candy though. I need a big one. I like to sneak those big candy bars in and everything. I noticed that at the White House the other day. They were handing out the big candy bars, man. Of course, they can afford to do it. Oh, anytime, Una? She might get bitten at Highgate. Yeah. Well, that's what I hear. It's fertile ground for that. I almost got bit with this. Wait till you hear this story. It's wild. Wild. And this happened probably the story I'm going to tell you about, the attack, the vampire attack. That's what I call it. It's the only name I ever gave it, the vampire attack. It happened to me. I was very young. This happened many, many years ago. And it was just out of nowhere kind of a thing. I mean, something I wasn't definitely expecting. But that's what I tell people about the paranormal, the supernatural. That's the only thing you can ever expect from them is the unexpected. That's just the way that rolls. But says I went there in my teens, Highgate's very area, came over to England. This is magical. I would love to. I've got a lot of friends in England. I've done some investigations in England, not in the flesh, but I've had some of that. I had a very interesting. That reminds me. I'll tell you the story about that right quick. I had a woman in Birminghamshire, I think it was Birmingham. She contacted me, and what it was, she actually lived next door, across the street from a cemetery. She told me it was the name of it. I can't remember now. Well, anyway, she said that she could see the cemetery from her room, in this house that she had actually rented a flat in this house. It was like a boarding house. She had like one think of couple of rooms or something in this house. Anyway, she could look out the window and see the cemetery, and she said some weird stuff went on out there. She would see lights sometime at night, which I told her were probably, who knows, witches up to something or whatever. But what her problem was, and once she had contacted me, and believe me, folks, I have done a lot of paranormal constellation over the years, tons of stuff. Still do it to this day. Sometimes, some weeks, I'll have 3 or 4 cases going on. And it's been all over the world. I've had people contact me. I had a case in India with a Ramshashka. We had I had one in Rio de Janeiro and all over the world, different places. Sweden. I had a report in Sweden of an actual um, ogre type thing that was living there, sort of like a mountain troll kind of situation. It was very interesting. So anyway, I had this case from Birmingham. I think it was Birmingham was the name of it. I'm trying to remember. It's been a long time back. But anyway, I need all these years, folks. I should have had a secretary writing all this stuff down for me. Well, what a case book that would make. It would be several case books. Trust me. But anyway, her problem was she had a very vivid dream one night that she was actually raped by a demon in this dream. And when she got up the next morning, she said, well, what she told me that in the dream, the demon had raped her. And she was like standing in front of the mirror, and she could see him behind her. And he raped her. And he had his hands on her shoulders, and said when she woke up next morning from this dream, this nightmare, she went to take a shower. When she got out of the shower, she went to the mirror and she immediately started thinking more about her dream, thinking about that because it was the same mirror in her dream. And she looked, and there were these handprints on both, one on each shoulder. There were bruises, just like somebody would have put their hands very violently on someone. And this is what really scared her, And she said, actually, Dr. Carroll, I felt like I hadn't been raped. I felt like I had been violated. And said I didn't have any bruising in that area, but it felt like it. And but she did have those bruises on her shoulders, and she was just freaked out by this, And she said, you never had anything like this happen before. And so, I talked to her, counseled her about it, told her what she needed to do and some things that she did. And one of those things was actually cleansing her room and anointing herself as well and all that. I won't go into the specifics, but I told her what to do to keep this from ever happening again. So I never heard back from her, so hopefully that did take care of her problem. But she said that she wondered if it was connected to that cemetery across the street. I said, it's a possibility. Somebody could have been over there dabbling around and opened a door of some sort and let this thing out, Because she had never been involved or doing Ouija boards or anything like that. She'd never done anything like that. She was a very devout Catholic. And she was raised in the Catholic Church and I think had gone to a Catholic school as a child. And so this was something completely new to her. So it was a very interesting case. That was Birmingham, I believe it was Birmingham, England. But so I have done some cases over there, definitely. But I like that name. Be kind today. That's good. That's weird, scary too. Yeah. Well, I've had a lot of cases of incubus and succubus over the years. They do attack people that way. And of course, I won't get into that tonight, but that is the way they produce what is called demon seed in this world. They can, a male incubus can implant his seed in a female, a woman, and the female succubus can, get with a man and he plants her seed in that. Supposedly, the incubus is the one that mainly produces the demonic seed, though it is called, because if the woman has a child from this union, and it will be partly demon, partly human. there are maybe definitely people out there walking around like that, that their fathers are demons and their mothers are humans. That's not a good thing to think about, but that still is a violation of the human race that is going on. Even after the fallen angels got with human women, this stuff is still going on, folks. It didn't stop. Although it should have been stopped a long time ago, but it hasn't. But I don't think it's as common as it once was. But you can definitely have demonic sexual attacks. So yeah. So every year a bottle of wine shows up and no one's ever caught leaving it. Yeah, that's the Poe toaster. Yeah, he toasts Poe with a bottle of Amontillado and he leaves it there. But it's supposed to be some. I don't think it's actual Amontillado. I think it's more like a sherry. Also, the real true Amontillado is kind of hard to get a hold of unless you're in Italy, all that stuff. All right, Werewolf, thank you for that $2 there. Thank you. I appreciate that. $2 sticker. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're closing out October here, so if I get a few more monetary gifts there, we'll close out in a good way. Thank you, Werewolf. I appreciate that. Great job. But demons do walk among us. Absolutely, they are. They're still messing with us. So yeah, they still mess with us. And Demon Seed is a very evil person usually, and they think that probably a good example of that would be Adolf Hitler, that his father may have actually been a demon. It would not surprise me a bit. It would not be surprising at all that certain people like that, very evil people, who don't have a true human lineage. Here's the way that usually works. So I'll tell you right quick about that. The incubus impregnates the female, and then if the female has sex with a male, and he impregnates her, then the demon seed, which is weaker than the human seed, because it's not quite human. See what I'm saying? It's more diabolical. Would strengthen that, so you can have a quasi, let's say, 30% demon, and the rest will be human. That kind of way. So that just depends, on what the situation is. Years though, and they haven't been sickly as you are not bringing the wine. Oh yeah. Hello, John. Good to have you here. But yeah, I've always wanted to visit Poe's grave. Actually, yes. Well, he was buried in two places, and they dug him back up and buried him in another place, where he's actually resting today. But there was the guy. They say that when they dug his remains up, there was nothing but a skeleton, of course. And they said that one of the guys, they picked his skull up, and it was something rattling around in there. And that's a theory that he may have died from or had a brain tumor, because the tumor will atrophy and almost become petrified, like in the skull. The brain may go away, but the tumor remains, and that was what would be rattling around in the human skull, actually. Oh, thank you, Sweet Pea, for that $10 sticker. Thank you, sweetheart. I appreciate that so very much. You're helping us get to our goal tonight. Absolutely. We're going to close out October. Thank you. It helps a lot. Definitely. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Um, you live up to your name, Sweet Pea. You are sweet. But yeah, no, it wouldn't be a bullet though, because he never. I don't think he was ever shot, as far as I know. I told a nurse the other day. She asked me if I was allergic. I said yes, I am allergic to gunshot wounds. They make me bleed, but that's it. I've never been shot. Actually, been shot at, but been lucky enough to dodge the bullets. It's never fun to get shot at, by the way. It's not. Trust me, it's not. But anyway, and don't forget it. Now after the show tonight, you have to go and hit that thumbs up button, okay? Hit the like button and maybe leave leave a comment, okay? That helps the algorithms out. That helps us out if you do that. So smash that button and leave a comment if you get a chance. Appreciate that, okay? Absolutely. And he disappeared for a week, was found. Yeah, that's still a mystery about Edgar Allan Poe. Where was he at for that whole week? He was sick when he disappeared. I mean, he told his fiance that he had to go to, he was going to Baltimore, and I think he was going to New York after Baltimore, and he never made it to New York. But he was sick. He didn't feel good. She said she felt of his face, and he had a fever. So there was something going on with him, and there's been a lot of speculation over the years. Did he have some a case of rabies, or and like I said earlier, there's that theory of him having a brain tumor. There was something definitely going on with him. And the Griswold who wrote his obituary lied about Poe. Poe was not a drug addict. Okay, Poe was never into drugs. He was a drinker. Okay, he had some drinking problems. He was an alcoholic, but he was not a drug user. That guy never here. Let that be an example for you folks. Never let your enemy write your obituary, okay? Because that guy really smeared Poe for no reason. His name was Griswold, and I wonder if he's into Canada Clark. Remember Clark Griswold? Yeah. Christmas Vacation. But anyway, Griswold really smeared him. He was Poe's enemy. And whoever came up with the idea of having him write the obituary, finally his friends got mad about that, and Poe's friends wrote their own obituaries and put them in there. Said he's just lying about him. He's trying to smear him because he hated him. He hated Poe. And so a lot of that got stuck in history, though. A lot of people believe that Poe was a drug addict and that he was a womanizer and all these other things, which he was not. But that's what happens when the wrong guy gets to write your obituary. But it was found delirious on October 3rd, 1849, in a Baltimore tavern wearing clothes that were not his own. He was taken to Washington College Hospital, where he kept talking about somebody named Runnels. And he was in and out of a coma like for 4 days before he finally died. He was talking to shadows on the wall. He didn't know where he was at. It never became very coherent after that. Before he died, unfortunately, we'll never know. The man who invented the mystery story and the detective story, that was the founder of Sherlock Holmes and stuff like that. He died with him leaving us a mystery. We'll probably never know what really happened. Why was he wearing somebody else's clothes? That's weird stuff. I'm trying to help my grouchy mom cook dinner. It's hard dealing with her. Uh-oh. You might better take a low profile on that, Jason. But don't get mama riled up there. But anyway, wormwood and absinthe sugar cubes. Oh yeah, he was big on absinthe out here. Yeah, a lot of them were back in the day. That was some. I have drunk that. Ooh, I took a snifter that one time, boy. I'm gonna tell you what. Whoa. Thank you, Anna A, for that $20 super sticker there. That's a pound, I'm thinking. Is that right? That's British. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. That is very, very kind of you. Thank you so much. It's good to have my friends across the pond there looking out for me. Thank you. And I got to get over there one day, and I would love to look you up, Anna, and hang out. It would be nice. I have my books are rather popular in Britain. If you haven't got had a chance to read my books, Anna, you might want to check them out. They are available on Barnes and Noble, but I've had a lot of good feedback from Britain on the books. They like them over there pretty well. I like them better over there than they do here, I think. But anyway, the people of Britain have good taste. That's all I can tell you. But anyway, you might want to check that out if you get a chance to do that. Well, thank you. No, that's a 1999 super sticker. Thank you, dear. That's very kind of you. Very sweet. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We're going to go out in October in a big way here. Definitely. Thank you. That meets my quota, I hope. Definitely. I'll have to check and see. But anyway, very close to it. But thank you. Thank you all. You're very generous tonight. Thank you so much for that. But yeah, I have a friend in Scotland too. Her name is Miss Stewart. I hear from her once in a while. I haven't heard from her lately. I'm going to check on her. I think her name's Mandy Stewart. And she's in Scotland. That's where some of my people, my grandmother, my father's mother, people come from Scotland. They were Drummonds, the Highlanders. And my great grandfather, his name was Timothy Drummond. Came straight off the ship from Scotland. They said his brogue was so bad you couldn't hardly understand him. Uh, but he probably, he spoke Celtic too, I'm sure. But anyway, um, um, I got a lot of Scots blood. I got a lot of Irish blood. I got some Viking blood. I got some Italian blood in me. I'm very international. That's why they call me an international man of mystery. Okay, got a lot of different blood types on me. Got a lot of different ways to go. I'm like, I think 10% Italian or something like that. So watch out. I may put the mafia on you here. Okay. I need some mafia friends. Absinthe is a high proof herbal alcoholic drink made primarily from wormwood. Yeah, that's the wormwood is poisonous too, by the way. So that's why you have to be very careful how it's very, very volatile liquor, definitely. Known for its bitter licorice like flavor, popular in 19th century France among artists and writers. It has a kick to it. I had to try it, and it definitely will knock you on your butt if you're not careful. Absolutely. But anyway, it's rough stuff. And just keep the flowing across the pond. Well, thank you, Anna. I appreciate that. And I really did. And actually, I had a British author lined up. I can't think of his name right now, but he never did make it to my show. I'm gonna have to try to get back with him again one day. He was kind of a flaky guy, though. I don't know what was going on with him. He promised to be on my show, but he never showed up. So I'll have to get back with him again and try him again. Maybe I don't know, something might have come up. But anyway, he was a great. I was liking a lot of his stuff, and he was into some paranormal stuff and all that. Blue Eyed Bandit has gifted 5 Hunting the Shadows. There we go, folks. There's some free memberships out there. Thank you, dear. I appreciate that. 5 memberships, folks. Some 5 lucky people out there in the audience tonight will be getting free membership there. All right. A 3 months membership. I guess that's the way that goes. Thank you, Blue Eyed Bandit. Thank you, dear. Appreciate that. Put that up. Everybody can see that. Okay. I don't think Genuine Absence has sold him. Well, I don't think it was the original like it was back in the day in Poe's time. I think it was slightly on account of the legality of it. Some of it, was kind of illegal stuff that you didn't, you wouldn't mix. You'd have to be very careful. I would like to try an actual absinthe the way it was once upon a time made. That would be interesting. But anyway, I'm not that big of a drinker anymore. Yeah, absinthe is illegal, yeah. But I'm talking about if you were to buy some, it would not be like the original was. Probably it's been watered down a good bit from what Poe would have drank. Absolutely. And, well, thank you, Jason. Appreciate that, bud. Hope you have a great supper there. Even it might get mom to help you out. Anyway, yeah. We're gonna be giving out a magic word here in a few minutes, and whoever gets that magic word the second time around now, you're gonna have 5 minutes to bounce it back to me, okay? And if you do, you will receive a packet of new stickers here and magnets from the Hunting the Shadows agency and the podcast. We'll be sending those out. We have one in the mail already to a lucky winner the other night, and you will be in the mail, whoever wins tonight. So be listening for that magic word, okay? But there we go. It'll be along soon, okay? I get it come without warning, so watch out. You got to be listening. But anyway, but I will in a little while here. Let's see. We're already 30 minutes, over 30 minutes into the show. Boy, time flies fast, isn't it? But in a little while here, I will tell my story about how I was attacked by a vampire. So you want to be around for this one. It was one of the most strangest episodes I have ever had. Absolutely. And like I say, this is going to be the first time ever sharing it with a group of people here. Uh, so I get those are some of the most requested things I get when I go on other podcasts. I do my own podcast. People request they want to hear those vampire stories. A lot of people are fascinated by vampires. Vampire stuff is fascinating in one way, definitely. It's kind of sickly and parasitic in another way, though. It's very diabolical stuff, though. It is very diabolical. I consider, and this is saying a lot here, folks, I consider the vampire to be more diabolical in some ways than the werewolf, actually. And the werewolf is true, actual demonic power. These are all things connected to deep, dark witchcraft and demonic black magic. This stuff is really very dangerous stuff. That's why, and like I said over the years, I've had a lot of people, young people, come to me. Dr. Carroll, can you tell me how I can become a vampire? I want to become a vampire. I said, no, you don't. You do not want to do that. I said, I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I know how to do it. I could become one tomorrow if I wanted to. I could become a vampire tonight. Absolutely. It wouldn't take that long. But you don't want to pay the price for that. The price is your soul and your humanity. You will be swallowed up by the darkness. And you don't want that. Trust me, you do not want to go there. And I'm not going to help anybody do that. I don't want your blood and your soul on my hands. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but and I'm not going. I know how you become a werewolf. I know how to do the skinwalker stuff. I know all this stuff. I have the knowledge, but I never have wanting to use it for that. I know how to do it and what to do and the way it's done, but I don't want to do it. I don't have an inclination to do that because I know what terrible price you have to pay for that. And you don't want to go there, trust me. They've made vampires seductive, not so much the werewolf. Well, some women like werewolves. My friend Jessica Jones, she's a real big werewolf fan. That was something she and I once upon a time had in common. We love werewolves, and that was our favorite cryptid. I think it still is. And she was crazy about it. There's sort of an animalistic mystery to the werewolf. I could see why women would be attracted more than men in some ways. There's that bad boy thing about the werewolf. He's kind of a bad boy. Bad dog, bad dog. Okay, but anyway. I'll be a werewolf. Anyway, um, there is that, I think, animal magnetism thing going on with the werewolf. But now the vampire, the reason he is so seductive, his power is in his eyes. Okay, not his teeth, his eyes. He can use that illusional glamour on you to make him look like he or she is the sexiest thing you've ever saw. He can make you think that, but he may not look that way in real life. You know what I'm saying? That's what the illusional glamour does. And that's why women get mad at me because I compare it to putting on makeup. And that's what you're doing. When a woman applies makeup, she is glamorizing herself. But that's what glamour means. It means magic. It's a magical thing. And if you have illusional glamour, that means you can make anybody see what you just want them to see. John says it's all fun and games till the dog bites you. The werewolf don't just bite you, though. He eats you. He eats you up. If you live through a werewolf bite or clawed, I think it's mostly a bite, you too will become a werewolf, supposedly. But very few people seldom live through that. But there is a werewolf curse, which also can be put upon you by either black magic or a spell cast on you, or it can come down through a bloodline. So there's different ways to be cursed. I think howling at the moon helps you let things go when it's been demonized, so I don't do it. Well, it can get you locked up if you're not careful how you do that. If you're going to howl at the moon, you need to do that way out in the middle of nowheres with nobody around, okay? You might get away with it better that way. I like that song, the late great Hank Williams song, Howling at the Moon, Remember that? That was an old country music song years ago. Yes, even a man who's pure of heart and says his prayers at night may become a wolf when the wolf bane blooms and the moon is full and bright. But actually, that's kind of redundant. You're not going to be pure of heart if you become a werewolf. I'm afraid not. And your prayers you will be saying will be to Satan and not God. Okay, that's where original werewolves come from. So that actual poem was made up for the movie The Wolfman. That's not in folklore. A lot of people ask me, where in folklore does it say that? I said it doesn't. That's made up in Hollywood. Okay, that's not real folklore there. Hollywood, I'm gonna tell you about that, folks, has really screwed up our perception of things. It really has. And when it comes to the study of folklore and paranormal stuff and supernatural stuff, Hollywood can be the filter you do not want to see things through. Hollywood, although they do base it on some actual fact or some actual folklore, they didn't take the ball and run in a completely different direction with it. That's the way that goes. So you cannot trust Hollywood on that. I'm so lonesome like a cry. Oh yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, that's a very, very bluesy kind of a country there. Yeah, howling at the moon might call in the pack you might not want to deal with. No. Well then, Cosmic Joe. I'm saying you're not exempt. The wolf can still hunt a good person. Yeah, you can be good and be bitten by a werewolf. No problem with that. Absolutely. Hank was sort of they called Hank Williams the hillbilly Shakespeare. I don't know about that, but anyway, he was a good writer, though. He wrote a lot of good songs. Most of his songs he wrote himself, so that's amazing to think about. A lot of car stars don't do that. I think Dolly Parton has done that, and Loretta Lynn did that a little bit. But he was the best at it. Thank you there, Danette, for that $4.99 sticker. Thank you, dear. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. You are a regular supporter. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, dear. You are a fine lady. Only 4 kids stopped by my apartment, but we don't have anything to give out. Oh, well, it's amazing there's that many still around. There's nobody ever comes on my street anymore. I've got my voodoo sticks out, though. Did I ever tell you about my voodoo sticks? I put them out every Halloween. They're 2 spears with skulls on them and feathers. They're Caribbean voodoo sticks. I have one on each side of my door out there right now. Stick it in the ground out there. What's up, Dr. Van Hilton? Hello, audio. Good to have you here, bro. Somebody told me that now I need to rename myself Dennis Van Curl or something like that. Van, by the way, in Dutch means of, like son of or grandson of. It's very much like Mac or O in the Irish thing, O Carroll or Mac Carroll. There's a bunch of those around. My original family name was O'Carroll, which means son of Carroll. And Carroll, by the way, is Celtic for champion or paladin, knight, champion knight. It can also be Latin for man, son of man. Well, the skull's real. I'm not going to answer that, Joe. They might get somebody in trouble. I'm not going to go there. The legalities of it, my friend. The legalities of it, okay? Well, let's just say I don't dig up old friends anymore. Can get you in trouble. Oh, yeah. Country legends like Hank Williams, Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash was great with Ghost Riders in the Sky. There's a lot of ghost country music songs out there, like um, Phantom 309, Bringing Mary Home. That's two good ones. Uh, God, there's a bunch of spooky songs out there that has been written, not just country, but pop songs as well. Somebody ought to put those together into an album. That would be a great album or something to have. I'm a werewolf, are you? Or could you be Mac the werewolf? Huh? You've heard of Mac the Knife, you'd be Mac the werewolf. Mac werewolf. We was trucking songs. Yeah, well, I could do Phantom 309 for you sometime. I know it by heart. That's a great ghost story. Absolutely. Dark Train coming. Yeah, that Long Black Train is one of the latest ones. That's got a very spooky, but gospel tint to it. It's a good one. The guy that wrote that and performs it is from my state, South Carolina. His name is his name is Josh Turner. I think his name is something like that. Anyway, he's a good country music singer. Long Black Train. You don't want to ride the Long Black Train. The engineer is Satan, by the way. There's a lot of ghost train songs too, by the way. That's interesting. And some really cute costumes tonight. I was surprised. Oh, yeah, some people really go get a very elaborate with those costumes. But I have done a lot of renditions. I have done Bringing Mary Home, which is a very spooky one. And I've also done, I have all these things in my mind. I have learned these things by heart. So they're cataloged in my brain there, folks. I can also do Phantom 309, which is one of my favorite trucking ghost stories. Like Arlo Guthrie, huh? Yeah. Big Bad John. Yeah, that was a good one. They never reopened that worthless pit. They just placed a marble stand in front of it. These few words are written on that stand. At the bottom of this mine lies a big, big man. Big John. That's a good one. Do it. Do. You want me to do Phantom 309? Okay, here we go, folks. I'll do Phantom 309. Listen. I was out on the West Coast trying to make a buck, and things didn't work out. I was down on my luck. Got tired of roaming and bumming around, so I started thumbing back east towards my hometown. I made a lot of miles the first few days. Figured I'd be home in a week if my luck held out this way. But the third night I got stranded way out of town at a cold, lonely crossroads. Rain was pouring down. I was hungry and freezing. I done caught a chill when the lights of a big semi topped the hill. Lord, I sure was glad to hear those air brakes come on, and I climbed up in that cab where I knew it'd be warm. At the wheel sat a big man, weighed about 210, stuck out his hand, said with a grin, "Big Joe's the name," and I told him mine. He said the name of my rig is Phantom 309. Well, I asked him why he called his truck such a name. He said, "Son, this old Mac can put 'em all to shame. There's not a driver or a rig running any line that's seen nothing but tail lights from Phantom 309. Well, we rode and we talked the better part of the night when the lights of a truck stop came into sight. He said, "I'm sorry, son, but this is as far as you go, 'cause I gotta make a turn just on up the road." But he tossed me a dime as he pulled her in low and said, "Have yourself a hot cup on old Big Joe." Well, as Joe and his rig roared out into the night, and nothing flat, he was clean out of sight. Well, I went on inside and ordered me a cup, but told the waiter Big Joe had set me up. Oh, you could have heard a pin drop. It got deathly quiet. The waiter's face turned kind of white. Did I say something wrong? I asked with a halfway grin. He said, no, this happens every now and then. You see, every driver in here knows Big Joe, but son, let me tell you what happened about 10 years ago. At that crossroads tonight where you flagged him down, there was a busload of kids coming from town. They were right in the middle when Big Joe topped the hill. There would have been a slaughter, but he turned his wheels. Well, Joe lost control, went into a skid, gave his life to save that bunch of kids. And there at that crossroads was the end of the line for Big Joe and Phantom 309. But every now and then some hiker will come by and like you, Big Joe, will give 'em a ride. Here, have another cup. Forget about the dime. Keep it as a souvenir from Big Joe and Phantom 309. There you go. Eastbound and down. Yep. I tell you who did that. Red Sovine. He was the one that would do that. The singing trucker. Oh, thank you, audio. You remember that song, don't you? Okay, Jason. Good. Good. Yeah, good deal. Let's see. It's a good one. Yeah. I like all those ghost stories. Yeah. Thank you, Sweet Pea. But anyway, yeah, this is a good night for ghost stories. I tell you, I was telling somebody the other day, one of the other times of the year for ghost stories, a lot of people don't know it, is Christmas. That was one of the Christmas traditions to gather around the fireplace and tell ghost stories on Christmas Eve. Absolutely. I would love to have been at some of them. When I was a kid, I used to go around the neighborhood back in the old days. The old folks would sit on the porch in the evening in summertime. And I would go from porch to porch, and I would get the old timers to tell me their ghost stories. Every family had a ghost story. I got them all up here. I collected them, and they've always been a fascination of mine. I love ghost stories. I used to go around. I used to do presentation in elementary schools for kids, and they would have me come in and do ghost story sessions. Which was fun. I always enjoyed that. And I had a little girl ask me one time, Doctor Carroll, do you believe in ghosts? So I didn't kind of, want to scare her. I said, well, let's just say I believe in ghost stories. That's where I got my spooky laugh. Oh yeah, I do. I've done. I used to do. Matter of fact, I used to do voiceovers in some commercials, local commercials that I did. I remember they had me one do a revival for a church. And at the end of the voiceover, it said, come Wednesday service Wednesday night, come and shake those chains loose. I think it was a very interesting revival, definitely. I remember doing that. I heard my own commercial on the radio on that one. Oh, get behind here. Get some. It's super dark and super windy tonight. Yeah, it is dark and windy out there tonight. It's a dark, spooky night out there. Dark and stormy night. Not stormy, but spooky. Okay. I'm a spooky guy. I got in touch with my inner spooky a long time ago, and I'm getting even spookier as I get older. We got some people checking out here. All right, well, come back later now, and listen to the vampire story now. Don't forget it. In Kent, Washington. Hope it goes well too. All right. Good night, werewolf. Take care of yourself out there. But yeah, I've done a lot of over the years, a lot of spiritual research. Done a lot of that, a lot of cryptid research. I've done just about as much as of one as I have the other over the years. A lot of that, a lot of Earth mysteries that I've investigated, different things like that. So I have a lot of a lot of background to look back on. Then Lost Boys. Oh yeah. Mhm. That's one thing I never did care for about living in Santa Carla. It's all the damn vampires. I always liked Grandpa. He was neat. He was the only one knew what's really going on there. Santa Carla, the murder capital of the world. All the other remakes were terrible. The original was the best of the Lost Boys. Oh, the cats I got stray in my garden working on her coming in before. Oh, a cat I've got out there has became a mother the other day. There's three more cats out there now, folks. One of them's black, solid black cat. I don't know where his daddy comes from, but ain't no telling. You never saw the Lost Boys, young man? Oh, my dear, you don't know what you're missing. You need to catch that. That is a great vampire movie. It's not that scary. Fright Night's scarier, actually. The original Fright Night. I like it too. It's great, you know. But the Lost Boys is sort of, 80s, very 80s, you know. It's great, though. I always liked it. Kiefer Sutherland was great in that. Yeah. You need to catch it and watch it sometime. It's a great movie. That's scary, the better. Well, I mean, it's not. Yeah, the good thing about Lost Boys, it's not that bloody and a lot of gore and all that. I want to tell you something about the bloody gore in movies. They just overdo that, and it's really not necessary. You don't have to show a lot of gore and blood and all that to get your point across on it. That's just like a lot of these science fiction movies where they have too many, stuff blowing, too much stuff blowing up, too many special effects. That kind of kills the story. Some of them know how to do movies and some don't. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes. Be great for Halloween. My mom did always watch Hocus Pocus and Practical Magic. Yeah, Practical Magic. They're supposed to be redoing that. I think they're going to do another movie of that all these years later. Actually, the original gals. And we're heavier times now. Yeah, well, I'll tell you what's happened, folks. Within the last 10, 15 years, things have become not just darker, they're more satanic. Look at look at Taylor Swift. I was talking about her the other day on the other program I did. You ought to read the lyrics for her some of her songs. I mean, it's very satanic stuff, folks. Nasty, filthy stuff that this girl is singing to little girls out there. I mean, uh, I don't know. We're really screwed up. The satanic stuff is real, folks, and it's getting worse by the day. It's the Lost Boys, two movies to a California town discovers infested with vampires. The older brother is turned in, the younger one fight to save him. Yeah, they're two brothers. It's a brother story. Yeah, brotherhood story. I tell you, if you want to watch a good werewolf movie, if you really want to watch, and I'm talking about it's a little gory, but not too bad. Of course, werewolves are going to be a little gory. The Brotherhood of the Wolf, boy, that is a great movie. Um, got a great story to it. It's even got an Indian in it, an indigenous person, however you say that. It's great movie. Yeah, the 70s and 80s were some good times. We had a lot of good times back then. Yeah, there's a lot of comedy in the Lost Boys. There's a lot of lighthearted comedy like to it. I love the Frog Brothers, Edgar and Alan Frog. They were my favorites in the whole movie. Their mom and dad, who were like old hippies, ran a comic book store, a store at the mall or wherever the place was at. Edgar and Alan Frog, the Frog Brothers, they were vampire hunters. Oh yeah, the Brotherhood of the Wolf, Jason. Great movie. Yes, sir. I agree with you. Great story to it. Yeah. Yeah, look for it, Joanne. You will like it. Yeah, definitely. One of my new neighbors is convinced Satanism is not what you see in movies. It's not that bad. I just, well, that's the way it presents itself. Beware of people, my friends, who take good for bad and bad for good, and light for dark and dark for light, sweet for bitter and bitter for sweet. Yeah, there's something badly wrong spiritually with you when you do that kind of stuff. You gotta watch out for people like that. Well, the wolf, yeah, falls French knight and his Native American companion investigating. Well, what it is they're investigating the beast of Gavardin, the very famous French werewolf. Great story. And matter of fact, my good friend um, investigated that. He went to Gavardin, France, and studied that. Ken Gerhardt. And they did a documentary on that. If you ever get a chance to watch that documentary, I think it comes on Story every now and then. Great documentary on the Beast of Gavardin. He came to the conclusion that I did a long time ago, and this movie does the same thing, that the beast was not actually a wolf, but a hyena. Yeah, or something along those lines. A hyena, a jackal, or something like that. I think psychological suspense is much scarier than blood. Well, absolutely. Yeah, like you have a lot of great suspense. Alfred Hitchcock was great at that. Like with Psycho and other ones like that. I thought it was excellent. Wow, so many movies to discover. Oh yeah, there's some great movies out there. But like I say, I have very good. Just I'm not bragging on myself, but I have an excellent taste in movies. And when I recommend movies, most people always come back and say, I'm glad you told me about that movie, because it's great. I know a good movie. The number one rule for a movie with me is, would it make a great book? Or if it is a book, did they adapt it the correct way from the book? That's the way I look at it as a writer and a storyteller. That is what I look for in a movie. And it's got to pass that test for me. But anyway, it's getting a little late now, so I guess I will get into my story here shortly. Um, uh, Speaking of magic words, the magic word tonight again is abracadabra. Whoever repeats that word to me within the next 5 minutes will be the winner of the sticker magnet package from Hunting the Shadows. Who's going to come in with it first? Whoever does is the winner. What was the word? Come on now, are we listening? Abracadabra, blue-eyed bandits, got it. All right. All right. No, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. No, Una beat you to it. Blue-eyed. Una beat you to it. But I'll tell you what, you're both tied at the same time. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Una and Blue-eyed and Sweet Pea, you send me your mailing addresses, and I will send all three of you for Halloween special. I'll send all three of you a a magnet sticker package, okay? Send it to denniswcurl@gmail.com, okay? And Jason, I will even throw you in on it too, okay? Absolutely. You were all at the same time on that one, okay? So, Jason, you send me your mailing address and you'll get a packet too. So that's 4 packets we're giving out tonight, okay? All right. And yellow heart and red hands, all right. So there we go. I want to see those addresses in my mail now. We will get them into the mail, get them in the mail for you next week. So get your refrigerator ready to receive its magnet. You can put it on your car, but people steal magnets off your car, by the way. Safer on your refrigerator. If somebody steals it off your refrigerator, you better be very careful about that. Absolutely. I might do it, Blue Eye, but just to be on the safe side, you might better send it me again. I'm gonna tell you why. I saved some of that in my mail, but I've had some mail problems recently. I lost a lot of mail. I might have lost yours. I'd have to go look for sure. But that's it. Dennis W. Curl at gmail.com. Thank you. We'll put that up for everybody. Just send me your mailing address and your name and mailing address. And hello, Messina. Good to have you here, dear. Happy Halloween. But just send me those in the email, and I will get those out to you, okay? I enjoy giving out the stickers and magnets, okay? But I will send them out to you this week. I got one in the mail to somebody else. I can't think of his name right now, but he won on the last thing. But I just wanted to see if anybody was listening for Abracadabra. Okay. But anyway, okay, we will get into the vampire story tonight. All right. This is one of the strangest stories I have to tell. Okay, and you're gonna have to bear with me because I'm getting all this from memory. And like I said, I have never actually told this to a group of people. I've told it to an individual one time, but I never actually told this to a whole group of people. It's never been out in public. Okay, it's the first time in public that I've ever related this story. But I just call it the vampire attack. I was attacked by a vampire. And this is a true story. And like I say, it's nothing made up. But this happened to me many years ago. Now, you might remember in my past, what first got me started investigating stuff was back, I've told this before. Back when I was about 14 years old, I had an incident happen to me at a church, a church service I was attending, where I actually saw 3 demonic spirits exit a man, go through the wall. Okay, the reason I'm bringing that up is that got me started wanting to learn. Well, I've always been interested in the supernatural for my entire life. I cannot remember a day or time when I was not interested in supernatural, paranormal stuff. I used to beg my grandmother, the Scottish one, by the way, that I was telling you about. I used to beg her to tell me Little Orphan Annie, the poem Little Orphan Annie, and because it was spooky, and witches, it had witches and ghosts and goblins in it. So I've always been that way, that's it. But when you actually see something, like that, it changes your whole outlook and perspective on things. It turned me around 180 degrees, and it lit a fire under me to understand what it was that I saw. If there was an element of the unseen and the unknown in this world around me, I wanted to find out what it was and to understand it. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because let's see. It was about 3 years later after that incident that this happened. What I'm going to tell you about the vampire attack. It was at that same church, okay, but this was like 3 or 4 years later. Now, I was not a regular attendant at that church. I kind of drifted away from attending in a lot, but I had come back recently, and the youth pastor of this church had who was somebody I knew. He was a good friend of mine. He's not with us anymore. But he had asked me to help him with his youth thing a little bit, his youth ministry he had at this church. And what it was, he would pick up, teenagers and stuff out of the surrounding village there. And we would bring them to a Wednesday night service. They had a Wednesday night youth service in the basement of this church. And I always felt that part of the church was spooky. Okay, that was a spooky looking basement, absolutely, and it always kind of gave me the willies thinking about it, And anyway, that was where the youth. I'm just laying this out for you because this is very important to the story here. Okay, but that is where the youth ministry Wednesday night meeting was held. And it was sort of like a Bible study. That's what it basically was. And so he had asked me to help him out. And what he did, he drove a van around. and pick these kids up. Some of them, they range in age probably from like 10 to about 16, 17 years old. Okay, in that age bracket. So he'd asked me to help them that week, and I said, sure, I'll help you out. And so I was just helping him ride shotgun and round them up, and bring them to the church. So we were all meeting down in the basement of this church, and like I said, it was a spooky looking old basement down there. It was. It always. I don't know. It was. I don't know if it was actually demon haunted basement. Demons do infest churches. They hang out at churches trying to cause trouble. Oh yeah, that's one of the places they hang out a lot. And I might have been picking up on that from that basement. I don't know. There's something freaky about that basement. I don't know what it was, but anyway. I don't think that had anything to do with what happened, but I'm just laying it out for you. So anyway, we picked this one boy up, and he was probably 16, 17 years old. And I noticed right off he didn't act right, you know. And he had on, like, I remember well, he had on like an old black overcoat, and he might have, I don't know if he had a hood on or what. He might have had something like a hood. It seemed like it was something like that he had on. But I just remember I didn't see his face real good. I didn't, I remember not seeing his face. And he had on this big old black overcoat, which I thought was strange. But although it was around this time of the year that this happened, and it might have been close to Halloween. I can't remember exactly, but I think it's in that general time of the year. So he had this long black overcoat on. He was acting kind of strange when I saw him. I didn't say anything about it. And then the youth pastor kind of shot me in the eye one time, because this boy was new to him, and he had picked this boy up. And anyway, he was set along, and they were all sitting in fold-up chairs down here, and they were getting ready to begin the Bible study. And I noticed this boy was real frigid. He was moving around a lot. And he was just like he's, couldn't get comfortable or something. And he was acting very strange. And that's when the youth pastor kind of shot me. Look, what's going on with that guy? And because I don't think he knew this boy that well. He had, been asked to pick him up, or somebody had told him to pick him up or whatever. I don't know what the story was behind that. But anyway, as all this began to unfold, I noticed something in the room began to change. Now, I want to tell you something about the demonic. It will change the very atmosphere around you when these things began to manifest. And at this point in time, I had just begun studying the demonic. Okay, I'm not going to say real deep into it, but I was pretty into it. But had just really begun my studies on it. But I had studied most of the basics by this time. Okay, and knew about exorcisms and all this stuff. The room, like I said, began to change somewhat. There was a smell that came in the room, which was very sulfuric in its way, but it wasn't real loud. You understand? It was just there, and you could catch a whiff of it every now and then. So I didn't know if it was some guy or someone of the kids didn't take a shower or what was going on. I didn't kind of really register it at that moment until later after all these events. Okay. But I also noticed something else perceptibly different about the room. The room itself began to get cold. And we were like, it was, like there was a heater going, I guess. It was warm. I didn't notice it when I first got there. But the room began to get perceptibly cold. And not icy cold. You couldn't see your breath. But, I felt this. And I got to wondering, well, God, there's something wrong with their heating system down here or what, I just noticed this. And the guy, meanwhile, was getting more frigid. He was moving around more. And then I noticed something about him. He began to shake a little bit. He began to start shaking a little bit. And I'm looking now. Let me describe the guy to you, okay? He was tall and very lanky, okay? He was probably, I'm 6'4", and he was probably over 6, okay, at least. And he was real thin. Kind of real thin and pale looking. And he had dark hair. And I'm going to say black hair, but it was dark brown like hair. And it was long, not real long, but it was kind of long, 70s, 80s kind of style thing, And he kept looking down. He would never look up. He would never look up at us for right at that moment. He was looking down. I noticed he began to shake. First, his hands were shaking, and then his legs like began to shake. And I thought, what's going on? Is this guy on drugs here or what? What's going on with this? And yeah, and I'm saying, hey, I'm gonna have to watch this guy, see what's going on. And the youth pastor is shooting me glances like, what's going on with this guy? He didn't say it out loud, but that was what he was saying. I'm going, shucking, I don't know, this is weird. So the guy he kept sitting there and he kept moving around and he started putting his head down further. He kind of started putting his head down, and I thought, was he gonna pass out here or what, And so I was gonna go over there and ask the guy, I said, what's going on with you, And I stood up to walk over there, and as I did, the youth pastor did too. He walked over, because he was in charge, And he got up and walked over there, and we both got, and the guy jumped up out of the chair. The guy jumped up out of the chair and grabbed me. He grabbed me by my shirt, and the other hand he grabbed the youth pastor. Okay. And he said, and right in my face, he said, I want your blood. I want your blood. Like that. And I'm telling you, this was very demonic sounding. And I'm looking, and the eyes go dark on this guy. He's looking right at me. The teeth this guy's face begins to change, folks. And I'm saying, it wasn't, real quick, but it just like slowly it was beginning to morph into something. It didn't look human, okay? And I'm not going to say he had actual fangs, but the teeth looked like they were getting longer. The teeth were drawn back in a snarl like a dog would do, And he was saying, I want your blood. I want your blood. Like that, right in my face. And he was blowing this hot breath in my face, which smelled very much like sulfur, okay? And I'm going, oh, God, this is a demon. This is some kind of demonic thing going on here. And I did not at the moment connect it to a vampire spirit, but that's what he was. And he grabbed me. He was grabbing me, and he was trying to bite me. He would snap at the youth minister. He was trying to bite both of us, like a dog would snap at you. Okay? And that's when I'm going, I told him, I said, you're not going to bite me. You're not going to bite me. I said that to him. That made him go crazy then. He started jerking and turning on. And he said, I want your blood. I want your blood. He's screaming this, okay? I want your blood, And I mean, the face begins to change. I'm looking at this. I'm saying, I've never seen anything like this before. The face began to change. And honest to God, I kid you not, it began to look like a rat's face. Like the guy had a lean face anyway, and it was not human anymore, folks. What I was looking at, the eyes were completely black. Okay, just like you hear about the black-eyed kids and all. I mean, they were black. The pupils, I was looking right in his face. The pupils went out like that, black. Okay, and while I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking, first of all, I thought the guy was on drugs, but drugs don't do that. Not like this, And this guy was acting that way, and he was saying, he kept screaming, "I want your blood, I want your blood." So me and the youth pastor both began to bend this guy over on the table. He was by the table that was behind him. He done knocked the chair down. See, it was a folding chair, and there was a table behind him. We bent him back over that table, trying to get him to turn us loose. I mean, he had a death grip on me and was snapping at me, trying to bite me on the shoulder, okay? And I'm screaming, I want your blood. We bent him back over the table, and about that time, the youth pastor, who had one hand free, I had both hands on this guy, and he had one hand on him, and the other hand he had his Bible in his hand. Well, I seen him open that Bible just like this. It came open, okay? And he went down over that guy's face with that Bible. And then we were both down on the table with this guy. And that's when the youth minister said, by the holy name and blood of Jesus Christ, I rebuke you. Come out of this man. Like that. And this guy was on the table now. It was shaking. I mean, it was just moving around. It was crazy. All of a sudden, boom, it stopped. It just stopped like that. He let go of the grip. He let go of the grip off of us. And the youth minister moved, took the Bible off his face. And it was just normal again, that quick. Now, that's not drugs, folks. Drugs don't do that. You know, a lot of people say, this guy was probably on drugs. No, no, this was not drugs. I've seen drugs on a lot of men and what it will do to them, and this was not drugs. That guy was morphing into something. And first, what I'm going to tell you, and I mentioned this to the youth pastor, and he wouldn't talk about it. He never talked anymore about this after this incident. But he had seen this happen before. He had been in exorcisms, okay? He cast that demon out of that boy. That's a vampire spirit demon, okay? Because he wanted our blood. He actually wanted our blood, okay? And he was trying to get it. And I thought about it later. That was not the face of a rat. It was more like the face of what? A bat. That's what it looked like to me. It was, that's what it was like. It was going to morph into. It never got to that completely, you understand? But that's what it kind of looked like. So, anyway, I found out later, after this, the boy was fine after that. We gave him some water, and we got him some water to drink, and he said, what? He said, he didn't know what he did. He really didn't remember it. And he said, he was like saying, what happened to me? I got sick. He told us he got sick and he just blacked out, but he didn't black out. We seen him. Everybody else in the room saw it. It scared the kids to death. They were scared to, we had to calm everybody down. I found out later that this guy was a big fan of some of the rock bands, the satanic connected rock bands, like Ozzy Osbourne and some of those, and also Black Sabbath. He had been deep into this AC/DC stuff, all this stuff. He had been deep into it, and satanic rock, as we've always called him. And he had probably somehow or another, being deep into this stuff, he had got some kind of spirit in him, and it was a vampire spirit. And if you notice that a lot of these groups push the vampire thing, just like Kiss did and some of these other ones, that's what his story was on that. And I heard later on that years later, he became a minister. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if that part is true on that. But I know what happened that day. And what that youth minister and I confronted was not human anymore. It was a vampire. It was a vampire spirit. And that's when I began to learn more about vampire spirits and how they are connected or definitely part of the demonic thing. Okay. And I've run into a lot of them since then. But that was one of the most violent. And he really, if we had not done what we done, and he had not thrown that Bible on that boy's face, I don't know what he would have come out to be. But he would have got probably a whole lot more violent, definitely. He would have probably ended up biting somebody, definitely. And I wasn't going to let it be me. But anyway, that is the story of how I was attacked by a vampire. And like I say, it was an honest to God vampire. The spirit was in that boy, was a vampire spirit, and it definitely wanted our blood. Yeah, Megadeth and all that. He was into all that kind of heavy, satanic grunge rock stuff. This was back in like the 80s, the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, somewhere in there. But anyway, then I remember there was a lot of backmasking stuff going on at that time too. You remember the backmasking stuff. But that is my story of how I was attacked by a vampire. I have had dealings with other vampires since then. Of course, you all know a lot of the stories I've told about that, but I've never shared this one out. But I heard of I was watching what made me think about this the other day. I saw a TikTok that reminded me a little bit about this. The guy was talking about something like that he had encountered at a church. And I remembered that. I said, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I mentioned or thought about it in a long, long time. And I thought I would share it definitely with you guys and see what you think about it. what would you have done in that situation? But that was what basically I learned a lot out of that situation. Always when I encounter these things, I always come out learning something different and something different about it. Hello, Kim. Good to have you here. But anyway, that is how I was attacked by a vampire. But believe me, I do not want anyone to ever get in that situation. That is not a good situation. You can go to website. Well, somebody won't know about the website. My old Dachshund kind of looked like a bat in the face. I call him a little bat. This guy's face was actually, it was a little. I thought when I first thought it was a rat, but then it dawned on me, you know, it was more like a bat's face kind of a thing. It wasn't kind of a snout like a rat. It looked more like a bat. Bats and rats look very much alike anyway. Yeah. Truth is stranger than fiction. Bats and rats look similar. And I believe you have experienced something very close, not them here. Well, I'd like to hear about that sometime, Blue Eyes Bandit. You'll have to send me a message on that. I like to hear other people's stories as well as my own. I definitely do. And uh, I like to get some of these stories up to put in books and all that. Everybody needs, if you got a story, you need to share it. Definitely. Always do that. What is the tree like hanging behind you? What is the tree like hanging behind me? Uh, let me see what's behind me. Maybe you're looking at my curtains. Oh my! Now there is a on this side of me. There over my window is a big plaque like thing that is a map compass that says north, south, east, and west. That's what you may be seeing hanging over the window right here, right there. Yeah. And then over here on this side, there is a planter hanging there that has right there. It has a vine on it. That may be what you're seeing too. And right behind my head is Edgar Allan Poe. there's a cutout of Edgar Allan Poe over there. I'm sorry. There he is right there behind my head. That's Edgar Allan Poe right here. I keep list of lifelong encounters and can do by. You need to think about putting them in a book sometime, Sigurd. That would be good. Might want to write you a book about it sometime. Be neat. Every story, no matter what it is, should never ever be lost to history. I don't care. You need to write it down or tell it to someone. Do something like that. It needs to be gotten. It needs to be out in the public. You're quite welcome there, Victoria. But that is how I have encountered vampire spirits and vampires like that since then. Like that girl that I met. I think that was. I always will think that she was a real vampire. I mean, a real spiritual vampire. The girl I met out in the cemetery. Um, and I had and after that encounter, she appeared in my dreams. I don't know if I ever mentioned this to any of you, but after that encounter that day in the graveyard with that girl, she began to appear in my dreams at night. And the dream would not be about her, but she would be like somewhere in the background walking through my dream. And the last time that I remember seeing her in the dream, she did say, I will see you again one day. And that was the last time I ever dreamed about her. I didn't see her anymore. I haven't dreamed about her since then. That's years ago. But I have a feeling that I will see her again one day. And when I do, that was 30 years ago. She will probably still look the same. I won't, but she will, definitely. People have asked me, did I think that she was sizing me up for a victim? That's a possibility she was thinking about buying me or whatever the situation was. But there was one interesting thing that I can tell you about, and I'm usually, here's the weird thing about it, okay? I think God was looking out for me that day. God's always looked out for me. He's always had my back, okay? Well, I would not be here to tell you any of this. Believe me, I've been in situations I should not be here tonight, okay? I should be gone a long time ago. But God has looked out for me over these years. God's always had my back. But I think the one reason she did not attack me or did not do that to me was that I never actually looked her in the eyes, and that's very strange for me. If I were standing in the room and we were talking right now, I always make eye contact, eye to eye contact with people. I look in their eyes when I'm talking to them, you know. Even voluptuous women, I look in their eyes. Okay, that's just me. I look in their eyes, and I do what read lips too. I kind of watch what they're saying as well. We all do that unconsciously, whether or not that's part of our hearing is what is read lipping. We just lip reading. We just don't know it. But anyway, I do that all the time. And what the strange thing about that was, I never did make eye contact with her, and that may be why she didn't attack me. You know, that's one thing that was unusual for me. And I thought about that later. You know, I did shake her hand, I did touch her, and that's probably why she showed up in my dreams. But that was unusual for me. I usually make eye contact, and I didn't, and that may be why she didn't, do anything to me. Thank you, Overbuilt, my good dear friend, for that $17 sticker. Thank you so much. I love you too, brother. Absolutely, thank you, and I appreciate it. And that really helps out a lot with that. Thank you. Great gift. Thank you. Uh, you're one of a kind, bud. All right, but that's all right. You can always go back and catch up. Don't worry about that. Two girls I met has crystal pools like a pond to fall into on centers above it. Maybe she wanted to be spoken of. I always get a frank thing. But she approached me. There was nobody else out there. There was some people I do remember seeing across the cemetery on the outside, on the sidewalk, past the wrought iron fence. There was some people standing there, tourists taking pictures or whatever they're doing. But we were actually alone in the graveyard itself, which would be maybe why she approached me. I don't know. You know, a lot of questions to that. I do need to write that incident down. I've told it a lot, but I do need to write it down. I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to have a section in my next book on vampires. The whole say vampires I have known. That's the name of it. Vampires I have known. But with that incident with the boy in the church, that taught me a lesson. Man, wow, God does some really interesting work here. You know, He got rid of that demon in a jiffy, buddy. I mean, it was just that quick. That demon was gone. You know, and there was one other thing I failed to mention. At the very moment that demon left that boy, there was a stack of books fell over on this thing. I found out later, when demons ever vacate a place, they always make a noise or they knock something down. They go out in a big way. They make a big exit. Sometimes, not every time, but sometimes they will do that. And that's what that one did. I kind of look for that. That tells me that's one sign. Hey, they probably vacated when they make that noise going out. They probably left. They're very angry about being cast out. See, they don't like it. They don't like being pushed out by God, but I do. Okay. Anyway, that was the interesting thing about that, and I have seen that happen over the years. I have actually cleansed houses and cast, demons out of houses like that, and they will make a noise. That happened with that case about the voodoo vampire spirit. It made a loud noise, boom, leaving that house. And, to all those you loved before. Yeah, that's a good one. Vampires I have known. That's going to be the title of that chapter. But, and I've known a few. But anyway, that's my Halloween story for you tonight. And it was but I mean, I learned a lesson from it. I said, boy, God don't mess around, he took care of that problem very quickly. And I had up in that point, I had maybe seen a couple of exorcisms, but never had been that close to anything like that. And I mean, he had his hand on me, and I had my hand on him. Um, Been over that table, like that. But and what was? Oh, by the way, I'll tell you one more thing about that. I didn't really mention, and I did quote it earlier. I know. I asked the youth minister later what was the section of the Bible that opened up on, and guess what it was? The 91st Psalm. Hey, I don't know if that was planned. That was not planned, but that's what it ended up on. And I have used the 91st Psalm a lot of times since then because I know it works very good. I've seen it happen in action that time. But it just happened, whether God did that or the youth minister had to do it, he just opened the Bible up and slapped it on his face. He put the word of God over that demon, okay, and he got out. That was it. But it happened to be the 91st Psalm. As a student minister, I came across very strange people on the street. I'm sure you did. You will see a lot of people like that on the street. A lot of those people out there have demonic spirits. A lot of people, I'm going to tell you something, folks, that I've learned over the years. You will find demons sometimes in the most unlikely places. Don't think you're just going to find them in a house of ill repute or a gambling den or a drug place or what. Demons can pop up anywhere at any time. That's just the way they are. You can't predict what, but they do haunt churches and graveyards. They haunt churches because they like to start trouble in churches. They haunt graveyards because they love places of the dead. They're drawn to places of the dead like a magnet. You tell us any personal stories about the werewolves? Well, I mentioned that one, about how I was hunting that night up in the mountains of North Carolina with those two Cherokee brothers. They were friends of mine. They were excellent trackers. They were some of the best trackers. And that earlier that day, I think I saw a werewolf. It was something standing back, and it was standing back in some trees, and it was not. It was late in the day, okay, and it was standing back in the trees. It was just standing there, and I could see its profile. I'm gonna say I'm 75 to 80% sure it had a wolf's face or head like a wolf. And I cannot say that 100% because I could not get an absolutely 100% clear look at it, okay? Because it was standing back in the shadows of these trees. And if it was a werewolf, and I think it was, the only reason I'm here to tell you this story, because a werewolf, you don't usually walk away from that unless God's looking out for you, or you are incredibly lucky, okay, because they will kill you real quick. I saw him, but he never saw me. I think he scented me, he smelled me, but I don't think he saw me because I was a good ways away from him. I was like looking down in I won't say a valley or a hollow or hollers as we call them in the mountain. I was looking down and he was standing there and he was looking at him like he had his nose in the wind a little bit. And then he kind of stepped back into the trees and he was gone, just like that. But a lot of people say, well, you probably saw a bear. I said, no, I have seen a lot of bears. Bears do not have pointed ears, okay? Bears have round ears. This thing had pointed ears. And by the way, bears do not wear a shirt and pants. This thing had a shirt, and what I could look like was pants on it. I couldn't see it full completely, but that's what it was. And if that's what it was not a dogman, because dogmen do not wear clothes. That was a werewolf. And here's what happened later on that day that kind of convinced me of what I saw, okay? As we was getting towards dark, we had been tracking what we thought was a wampus cat. That's what we were looking for, Yeah, I'm 6'4". He was probably, I didn't get a chance to go back down there where I saw it, okay? But I would say what I saw out of those images, he was definitely over 7 foot tall, probably. In that respect, in that neighborhood, if I were to judge it, but I'd have to go down in there and take some measurements to give you a real 100% view on that. And I didn't get a chance to do that. Later on that day, we'd been all day. Something had been in front of us. It'd been playing cat and mouse with us, and I thought it was what we were tracking was the Wampus cat. Now the Wampus cat um, is sort of a monster mountain lion with 6 legs. That's right, not 4 legs, 6 legs. But all day long, we could never get a line of tracks on this thing. We could see a little partial track here and there, but we couldn't make it out. We never got what you call a line of tracks on this thing until the very end. And we found this line of tracks along the side of the creek that we were at. Okay. And it's already getting late in the day. There's lightning and thundering. Felt some rain a little bit. It was fixing to come up a big storm in the mountains. Okay. And we found this track, and the guy and the 2 Cherokees with me, and I used to hang out with Cherokees a lot. I love them. They're great people. I learned a whole lot from them, okay? And they gave me the name Ghost Wolf because they say I walk between worlds. I am the Ghost Wolf. That's my Indian name, okay? And I got it wrote down somewhere how you actually pronounce it in Cherokee. But anyway, that's what they call me. So I always liked them. I thought they were cool. I hung out with them. Anyway, um, they were looking at the tracks, and so was I. And it was a weird thing about it; they didn't look right. I said, "This is not a cat, you know. This is something else." And it looked like a dog or a wolf track, but it was different too. It was longer, like. And I'm saying, "What the heck is this?" You know. And I'm following this track, and so were there. They're in front of me, and I'm behind them, looking at this track line. And they stop a little further on up, and I'm going, "What's going on with this?" Because it looked like it began, it was walking on 4 legs, and then it looked like it went to 2 legs. And I finally walk up to the Cherokee brothers, and one of them looks at me, and he's looking at the track, and the other brother speaks to him in Cherokee. And I said, "What did he say?" You know. And he looked at me, and he said, "Look, we didn't sign on to track no damn werewolf. That's what this is. Werewolf tracks, and we're leaving. We're going. Bye." So I left with them. That was the end of it. But I never told them what I saw earlier that day. I never had them. And I'm going, was that the same thing? It definitely seemed like it might have been something like that. Because that was kind of confirmation of what I saw. But that's my werewolf story, you know. But anyway, we might have got pretty close to it. It was playing a cat and mouse game with us. I believe that thing was setting us up to attack us. I don't know. But by the grace of God, I'm here to tell you that story. Because if you ever encounter a werewolf, my friends, they're not going to give up. They're psychotic killers. They're demonic to the max. They're going to kill you, tear you into little pieces, and eat you just for fun. Mad Bear Tuscarora. Yeah. You have Cherokee audio. Oh, that's good. You ought to be proud of that, my friend. I like the Cherokees. I got Cherokee blood in me too, but not half, but I've got some. I had a grandmother who was full blood Cherokee, great grandmother. You believe that these? Let's see. Let's see what this says. There's a thing sticking in the way of your comment here. Let me put it on the screen where I can see what's in. Now, girl, do you believe that these entities cross culture or DNA? That would not surprise me a bit. I think a lot of these things are demonic in origin. Okay, and the demonic has not been known to play around with our DNA, and they do it in every culture. So there you go. I mean, you know, sure, it would not be that far fetched to think that the demonic has created a lot of these cryptids, my friend, over the years. The demonic goes that route. They mess around with God's creation because they are enemies of God's creation, and that includes us. The Cherokee ghost, that's skilly. Oh, skilly is short, yeah, from wolf way pronounced Waya. Waya, Waha, Waha, yeah. Ghost wolf, Waha. I got it wrote down, yeah. That sounds like it, yeah. That's what they call me. They gave me that name. Uh, we did the blood brother ceremony thing, and they gave me the name Ghost Wolf. Do I know of any real life Frankenstein cases? No, not offhand. I've studied a lot of vampires. I mean, a lot of Frankenstein cases that would be very close to that. I believe that without a doubt, my friend, that there is a lot of shadow science going on in this world, and there are rogue scientists like Doctor Frankenstein out there, and I think they're messing around with stuff too. I have heard rumors that they are trying to find a Z virus. They're going to turn us into zombies. They want to bring about an actual, real zombie outbreak, just like you see in the movies. They're trying to really do that in real life. And there are rogue scientists like Dr. Frankenstein out there in their own labs messing around with this crap. That does not surprise me a bit. I know without a doubt that's going on. Matter of fact, they busted a secret Chinese lab just like that in California a few months ago. Yeah. And then the Chinese smuggled in some stuff not too many weeks back that they called that would have wiped out our wheat crop forever. We would be in big trouble if they were messing around with this stuff. There's a lot of rogue shadow science going on out there. And the original shadow science was given to us by fallen angels, not because they love us, because they want us to do ourselves in. That's what. In the last train will get you. On several of us, and she saw a bright blue something slip between the fence slats in a blink of an eye at a right angle. Weird. You will see things, you will catch things like that once in a while because the spiritual world is right here with us. Okay? We're not that far. I mean, we're so paper thin close to it that you will get a bleed over from it once in a while. The veil is always thin. It's just thinner sometimes of the year more than others, but it is always there. For some of us, it is very thin. Some of us are very sensitive to it. We see things that others don't see. Now, I was born with a call, and supposedly you're supposed to see things that nobody else can see. I don't know if that's true or not. I have seen some things that nobody else saw. Maybe that's what they were talking about. But anyway, certain people are supposed to be gifted with being able to sense this other side that's so very close to us. I believe without a doubt that, heaven, hell, the Garden of Eden, all these places are in other dimensions. Absolutely. I slipped out of liminal space into, liminal spaces are the in between spaces. There are liminal spaces, there are liminal situations, there are liminal beings that exist in some of these places, supposedly. There are the vortexes. Yes, of course, these are the spiritual doorways, or however you want to put it. They are known through every culture of the world, talks about these spiritual doorways. Even the Catholic Church recognizes that these spiritual doorways do exist and you can open them. You better know how to close them if you open them, though, because you never know what's going to come in. Whenever you deal with the spirit world, in whatever form or whatever contact or whatever you do never know what you are dealing with on the other side. You do not know. It's a big, big gamble that you're playing, okay? And what it might do to you. That's why I warn people against playing with it. Don't do that. It's not a good idea to mess with something. That's just like the only way I can say. Somebody says they said, "Give me an example of that." I said, "Okay, the perfect example is you playing with a diamondback rattlesnake in the dark. Sooner or later, something bad's going to happen. And that's the way that goes." My mom had a call. Yeah, that's her mom and sister also. I had a call. Something in the psychic spiritual connection. That's interesting. Yeah. But according to that people born that way have that. Now, that's a little bit of the skin of the placenta on you, whether that has anything to do with it. But of course, that's the old folklore, the old wives' tale. To be born with a call over your face means that, you will see things that others cannot. Hans, hello. Yeah, I did a Ouija board once, and the thing in the middle 100% moved, and we were barely touching. I couldn't believe it was actually moving like that. Yeah. Oh yeah, this stuff's real. People don't understand that. And I try to tell them what you're dealing with here is not a fairy tale. It's not made up. It is a real deal stuff, and it is very, very dangerous. Believe me, my friends, I could tell you a dozen or more people I know right now lying 6 foot under in graveyards who were put there by this stuff. Trust me, it is real and very deadly and very dangerous. Yep, you always got to expect the unexpected. Well, we'll do about 10 more minutes and I'm going to bow out of here. And, yes, you mentioned you. Oh yeah, my brother, Cryptid Warfare. We did a great podcast. It's available tonight. You can find it on Facebook and on YouTube. Cryptid Warfare with my brother Drew Winsky. Drew, is a great guy, and we did some fantastic podcasts. Go check it out. Cryptid Warfare YouTube channel. By the time your brain figures out what you're looking at, you'll be dead. Absolutely, sir. It can happen very quick. These things. I don't know. A lot of people do not really realize what they're playing with. The curious run off hacked out and failed to learn to protect themselves. That's true. I had that happen not long ago with this guy. Let me tell you a quick story. Um, And I got on to the guy about it. I know this guy. And he called me up the other day. And he said, Dennis, other night actually. Dennis said, you got to come over here, man. I need you. I need you real bad. You got to come over here. I said, well, what's going on? I said, just get over here. I need you real bad. So I went over there. I drove over to his house. And he let me in the door. He was shaking like a leaf. He was scared I was with. He's a Bigfoot hunter. He's been doing a lot of Bigfoot hunting there. He's got deep into it. Not a whole lot. But he's not well known for it yet. But he's getting into it. He's got the Bigfoot fever. Okay, and being in mind with my back and all that, I can't go out in the woods. He wants me to go out with him, and I can't do it. There's no way I can do it right now. I'm immobilized by my back problem. But anyway, uh, I went over there to see what was going on. I thought he was scared. I didn't know what. Did you kill somebody or what's going on here? Did you commit murder and you want to confess to me or what? Uh, so I got to his house and he said, come on in, come on in. He shut the door. He lives alone. I think he's divorced. He lives alone now. And he's got a little girl, but she stays with the mother. She stays with him on weekends. I think but then she was not there. He was all by himself. He's shaking like a leaf, he's pale as a ghost. I said, what's going on? What's happened? He said, it's followed me home. I said, what are you talking about? He said, this thing, something followed me home. And he talked about he was out in the woods looking, tracking Bigfoot, walking around looking for Bigfoot tracks and stuff. And he said he walked to a graveyard, an old family graveyard out somewhere out in the middle of the woods. And he said he heard something walking behind him. And he looked and there's nothing there. And it was getting late, so he was getting ready to leave and go back home. And he said, when I got home, he said, I heard something behind me. Now he had some like woods around his house. And where's that at? I'll show you this. I happen to have this with me. Anyway, he said, when I got home, I heard something. He said, I got in the house, I looked out, and he said, I saw it. He said, come here, come on over here. So I walked over there and he pulled the curtain back on his window and said, look out there and tell me what that is. What the heck is that? I look out the window and sure enough, out in the woods, there's these two big eyes out there. Eyes looking, and they're sort of amber color looking eyes, kind of weird looking, And I'm saying, well, what is that? Is that an owl or what? He said, I don't know what that is, but that followed me home. And I said, well, what makes you think it followed him? He said, I just know it did. I just know it did. He said, it's freaking me out. He said, I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight, man. He said, what can you do about it? I said, didn't I tell you about protecting yourself when you go out and you come back in? He said, well, I didn't do that. I said, well, that's your problem. Don't you know you do not go out and investigate anything? I don't care if it's your neighbor's backyard. You don't go out and investigate it without protecting yourself going out and protecting yourself coming back. I said, don't ever fail to do that. I got on this case about it. And I said that, that could be something else. So I got my police flashlight out. And this thing will knock your eyes out. I mean, this thing is a very, very bright light. Okay. It needs a battery in it right now because I used it up the other night looking at this. And I went out on this porch looking around, see if I could get it, put my light on it, lit the whole place up. But every time, here's the weird thing, okay? Every time I'd put my light on, there was nothing there, folks. And I would go back to his room and look out the window, and there it would be back again. And I did this 2 or 3 times. I did that. I went out there with the flashlight, and I said, well, heck, that's enough is enough of this thing. I told him, I said, look, let's get on our knees right here on the floor and let's pray. And I prayed a prayer of protection over him and his house and his property and everything. And when we got done, we got up and walked back over there. He looked back over there and pulled the curtain back, and he was gone. So I hadn't heard anything else from him since then. But be careful, things will follow you home. People don't realize that. You got to protect yourself going in and coming out of it. You got to. You're quite welcome, Una. Good to have you here. Good to be with you, that you're with us again. Female vampire wanted him to know who she was, so he would write about her being mortal, right? That's a possibility, Sweet Pea. I never thought of that. Just maybe she wanted that kind of immortality. You always keep my police flashlight handy. This thing will light up an acre of land real quick. And buddy, you flash this in somebody's face, it's like a weapon. It will blind them instantly. I always carried this with me when I was on patrol. Definitely, I wouldn't go anywhere without my police light. But anyway, my eyes aren't what they used to be. They moved to the neighborhood mailbox at 5:40 in the morning. I thought it was a bear. Don't scare me to death. You never know. I'll tell you what, evil can be in your neighborhood, folks. Okay, I'm gonna tell you something that's not gonna make you feel good tonight, but it's Halloween. Okay, Dog Man's not only found in the woods. I've got a lot of reports of him walking around people's neighborhoods, and that includes Bigfoot too. So you never know what you're going to walk into when you walk out your door, my friends. Don't forget that. That's solid advice. But I appreciate you all so very much for spending this Halloween Eve with me. That's All Hallows Eve or Samhain. And it's always good to get together and swap stories and tell things. I enjoy doing that, and especially with good folks like you. And I really appreciate you all, definitely. You know that, and I'm glad that you support this channel, and not just with your monetary support, but just being here. And please, let's get some more people to subscribe, okay? And let's start spreading word around. You got to watch Hunting the Shadows, okay? And I'm cutting down now to 2 nights a week, okay? So that means we're gonna have to try to get those subscribers in and get it done, okay? But like I say, I appreciate what you're doing. So get out there and sell Hunting the Shadows to them, okay? Tell them they need to check us out because we have a lot of great times here, don't we, friends? Absolutely. And not just on Halloween, but every night. That's what I said today on my little. I did a little short to advertise this. I say here on Hunting the Shadows, it's Halloween 24/7, 365. Okay, it's always Halloween here. Absolutely. But I appreciate you all so very much for being here and for listening to my stories. And take care of yourselves till we get back together again, which will be next Wednesday. And don't forget the new time is 8 o'clock p.m. Everything's 8 o'clock p.m. now. Okay, Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock Central. If you don't live in the central part of the world, I don't know about England. But anyway, I appreciate you all so very, very much. And don't forget, I'm here for you. Just like my friend who had the problem with the spooky eyes. I'm here for you if you ever have any problems, anything like that. Don't forget to send me those addresses. And we'll get those stickers and magnets out to you, my friends. Absolutely. We appreciate you all. Be very careful what's left of the rest Halloween, okay? I used to remember a little poem that went with Halloween when I was a kid. Let me see if I can remember. When werewolves howl and banshees wail, when ghosts are about and your skin turns pale, when a feeling of fear permeates the air, and it's Halloween, so beware, beware. All right. So be careful out there. Eat a candy bar from me, okay? Take care of yourselves till we get back together again. Watch out for those ghost goblins. They'll give you with a prayer on that, okay? From ghosties and ghoulies and long-legged beasties and things that go bump in the night, good Lord preserve us. Amen. All right. Well, take care of yourselves, my friends, until we get back together again. Godspeed. Hold the line and don't ever forget it's always faith over fear. Non tambo mala, fear no evil. And take care to always hold on to the light and take care of yourselves until we get back together again. Godspeed. And I will be looking for each and every single one of you somewhere out there in the shadows. I stand amid the roar of a surf-tormented shore, and I hold within my hand grains of the golden sand. How few, yet how they creep through my fingers to the deep. While I weep, oh God, can I not grasp them with a tighter clasp? Oh God, can I not save one from the pitiless wave? Is all that we see or sing but a dream within a dream? You can support Hunting the Shadows at our Patreon, patreon.com, Hunting the Shadows Podcast. Also, our memberships are open on the Hunting the Shadows YouTube podcast channel. Please also support our Facebook groups, the American Institute for Paranormal Research, Southeastern Cryptid Investigations, Legend Trackers Society, Highway to High Strangeness, Monstrum Venators R.S., Agency of the Arcane, and Hunting the Shadows Agency. You can contact Dennis Carroll at DennisWCarroll.com.